something folks should know about what the IRS would do if you owed them money. This is a process that you could expect them to take.
Right. Well, if the IRS needs to contact you regarding any back taxes that you may owe, they have a very strict protocol, Mark, that they follow, and it's important that people understand that. It's possible, although rarely happens, but possible that they could hire a private collection agency to collect money from you. But, and this is very important, the first time that you'll hear from them will be through the United States mail. They'll send you a tax bill first, and that is really important to know. It will not come on the phone, it will not come as a text message, it won't come as an email, it'll come as a bill to you, a tax bill to you, certified through the U.S. mail. So it's really important that people know that, because if they get the call first and then they react, it's going to be a scam.
Right.
Here's what else they don't do, right? They're not going to call you and demand money without first sending you a bill in the mail. We just discussed that. That's a really,
that's a first will not do that. They're not going to demand money. Anybody calls demanding money, hang up. I guess the best thing.
It's really important to remember that. If you can remember that one thing, you're going to really do a lot to help protect yourself. The second thing that they're going to do is they're not going to demand that you pay taxes and not allow you to ask questions or appeal the amount owed. Sometimes the IRS will contact you and say, well, we think you owe $1,000 more than you filed for. And you could say, I don't believe that. There's an appeal process that you can fill out. You can work with a tax accountant on that. You can fill that out yourself. You can get that back. It's a full legal process. But they're not going to demand that you pay the taxes until that full process is taken care of. Third, they're not going to require a payment a certain way, like a prepaid debit card, or put the cash in the mail, you know.
Or go to Western Union.
Go to Western Union, or just $100 bills, please. Or they're not going to do any of that. They're not going to require the payment in a specific way. The IRS will never do that. Another issue, another piece that they won't do, they're never going to ask you for a credit card number over the phone. This is important for two reasons. First of all, they won't do that. But if a scammer is actually trying to get you caught in the scam, and you're going to get $6,000, they're going to scam you for $6,000 for the IRS scam, and then you give them your credit card number, you're going to get double whacked here. Because and so this is another, this could be a real twofer on you. So they're never going to ask for your credit card number over the phone under any circumstances. And then finally, they're never going to threaten to call police, the law enforcement, the U.S. Marshal, the FBI, the CIA, whoever it might be. They're never going to threaten you with a law enforcement action. That is not what the IRS does. So if you feel that call is threatening in some way, that is a very good indication that the scammer on the other end of the line.
Sam, in Wisconsin, some of the things maybe that AARP is doing, and only in Wisconsin, but around the country, but maybe some examples of what you're trying to do in the Badger State to combat the situation.
Yeah, one of the great tools that AARP has created in the last several years is our Fraud Watch network, you know, where people can sort of self-report and look where some of these scams are happening around the country. There's an online tool where you click on your state and see what people have reported. I think that's sort of task number one of the best tools that we've got available through AARP. The other thing, we're always working very closely with our Attorney General's office and law enforcement to encourage people, if they call us at the AARP offices, as much as we like to know what's going on, first call we have them make is somebody in law enforcement or the Attorney General's office, because they need to be aware. There may be a pattern of calls occurring. They need to, you know, let local law enforcement know if it's happening in multiple places in the state, so that there's a coordinated response. So we serve as sort of the intermediary oftentimes.
Let me follow up on a couple of really important things that Sam said. First of all, what we do know, and all the research is very clear on this, that the only way we're going to combat this problem, some $15, $18 billion a year, potentially more than that in fraud and scams, Mark, is to have a highly educated population. We're not going to get the money back. You're not going to get your money back when you lose it. Law enforcement's not going to catch the scammer because they're coming from you all over the world. There's no way to get to them. So if we can raise people's understandings about how to protect themselves, and even more importantly, that they'll share that information with their friends and their neighbors, a highly educated population on this particular crime is the only way we're going to combat it. And secondly, to Sam's point about reporting, very important to call your AG's office, to call local law enforcement,
Amen.
because they're working in concert with AARP, but they're also keeping tabs. As Sam said, like this time of year, we're really concerned about the IRS scam, but also, you know, coming up in February, we're worried about the sweetheart scam, the Valentine scams that happen. You know, around Christmas time, we're always worried about charity scams. So they're keeping track of the types of scams that are going on. They get that information back to us, and then we can get it out through our vast networks at AARP. So it's really important to report that stuff as well.
They're very skilled in the sort of their verbal abilities to get you to give them their money. The other thing is they're also doing something called spoofing. And so if you have caller ID, which the majority of phones do today, they have the ability through technology to actually have the message that shows up say something like Internal Revenue or Revenue Service or IRS or something along those lines. So even if you had some doubt, you might say, well, it did say IRS on the phone. That means nothing. They can change that message at their whim. So that combined with them, you know, the IRS never going to call you at home, those two things should be triggers for you not to stay on the line with that individual.
If the people missed something Greg mentioned earlier, the first line from IRS will not be a phone call. It will be a letter delineating exactly what the situation is, and it won't be a phone call.